All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to So You've Gotten a Brownfields Grant, ellipses. Now what? Uh, this is our July edition of our monthly webinar series for the Brownfield Technical Assistance Program. This series is presented by Blueprint Kentucky, which is where I, Tyler McDaniel, work as a Downtown Revitalization Program Manager, and the Kentucky Energy and Environment Cabinet's Brownfield office. Um, if you've never been to one of our webinars before, I'll give you a little rundown of the program and what we do. This partnership between the Kentucky Brownfield Program and Blueprint Kentucky allows us to reach more communities through education, through outreach, through amplifying a lot of the great work that happens around Kentucky with these complex projects. Um, so we do that by offering technical assistance to help communities become more competitive in the federal Brownfield grant application. But we also offer guidance to help them sort through some of the state resources as well as specific outreach and engagement strategies that we think kind of lead to bigger long-term impacts in communities. So we have a monthly newsletter. We do this monthly webinar series. We do workshops around the state. We actually have one this Thursday in Owensboro. So if you're in Western Kentucky and you'd like to come to Brownfield Boot Camp and double up on your Brownfields action this week, please join us. There's still plenty of time to register for that. Um, a little bit of housekeeping before we get going. We're in this brownfield, the suite. I can't remember what the Zoom type is called in this presentation mode, but you'll notice a Q&A section at the very bottom there. So if you have any questions, please insert those into the Q&A function. Those will be particularly helpful in this webinar as we're going to have a little more, casual conversation and back and forth with our panelists today. So I would love to get some audience questions, either that you have right off the bat or that come up throughout our broader conversation. This is also being recorded. It's going to be posted on the Blueprint Kentucky YouTube page. That page houses our entire catalog of webinars, both from this series as well as the many others that our organization does. So check that link out, share it with your friends, even subscribe if you feel so generous. We would love that. Today, in our conversation, we are hearing from three folks representing three different organizations, institutions who represent different geographies around the entire state, and have varying, degrees of experience in having holding different grants and following these processes through in multiple communities. So I'm really excited to have them all here sharing their expertise. We have Jennifer Wilson with the Kentuckiana Regional Planning and Development Agency, or KIPTA. Um, we have Sarah Ellis with Louisville Metro Government. And then we have Jennifer McIntosh with the Kentucky River Area Development District, CRAD. They're each going to sort of tee up or sort of set the stage for our conversation today by doing kind of a brief intro about each of their communities that they represent, the programs that they've held, and the work that they've done. So yeah, within that, anything that comes up, once again, feel free to throw that in the Q&A. And I'm going to start by welcoming Jennifer McIntosh. I was saying before this is, I think the first time we've had two Jennifers, yes, but also two folks with the same name on a webinar, and it feels like a big milestone. So bear with me as I sort through the same names, but I want to queue up Jennifer McIntosh here to introduce herself and CRAD and the communities that they serve.
So I'm Jennifer McIntosh. I am the Associate Director of Community and Economic Development at Kentucky River Area Development District. I've been there almost 19 years. We serve Breathitt, Knott, Lee, Leslie, Letcher, Owsley, Perry, and Wolfe counties and all the cities within them. So currently we have a Brownfield Coalition grant. We received $1.5 million to do phase one assessments, phase two assessments. This is a first time that anybody's been allowed to do building condition surveys, I think, in our region. So we actually got that approved to be able to go in and assess the conditions of these buildings, once they've had their phase ones, phase twos. And we did this in partnership because of Betaville. They have been working with the United States Corps of Engineers, and they have done a full assessment of Betaville. And so they actually asked if we could assist them with these building condition surveys. So that was the reason that we went with that aspect of it. Our focus areas are Betaville, Whitesburg, and Jackson. However, our grant is so large that we're hoping we'll actually end up being able to do the entire region by the time it's done with phase one, phase two assessments. So we're kind of in the process right now of just looking around, seeing which buildings. I think to date we've actually completed 10 assessments. So, as I was saying, our first direct grant that we're working currently is this 1.5 million coalition assessment. So we have 8 listed, but there is 10 in total. So we've just been kind of asking our mayors, judges, and community members, if they have a building. We've been working with Fahi as they try to find sites in our area for new housing. So we've assessed a couple sites for them as well. So we're in process of trying to just make sure all that is done. So we also, if you want to go to the next slide, are working with the city of Betaville, who received an almost $500,000 cleanup grant for their WPA building. So this is a historic building. It was built in Federal Roosevelt, FDR's time. And so they are wanting to rehab this building. It's been a city hall, it's been a fire station, among other various things throughout the years since the 40s. And so they're wanting to renovate it now to hopefully include like a bed and breakfast upstairs and then office spaces and maybe even a cafe downstairs. So we did do the phase one, the phase two on that. So now they have the cleanup, and we're trying to take it back to as much historic value as we can, but also making it structurally sound. And because it's in an area that floods, the building itself has probably been flooded at least 5 or 6 times. So we're also making this a flood-proof, resilient building so that people can model after that. So that way, in the future, if you're in a flood area and you have an old structure that you'd like to renovate, you'll know exactly how to go about doing that. So we're hoping to make that a showpiece when it's all said and done. We've currently removed all the asbestos from the building. We've had to do some roof repairs. We had to pull out most of the walls because they had received such extensive damage from the flooding. So we're shoring those up. We're looking at the windows right now, and then we're going to, with a separate grant, come back in and do the electrical, HVAC, and plumbing so that it's all flood resilient as well. Prior to this, we had a 2020 grant, which did our city a hazard. With that, we were able to do multiple phase one and phase twos within that. And our downtown is thriving now. We worked very closely with their downtown coordinator when we did this and assessed the buildings for them. We also did a market study for them to try to see how they could best utilize and best market the buildings that they had.
All right, that was a great roundup of all the work, the robust work that's been done down in Southeast Kentucky. Thank you, Jennifer. Now I'm going to kick it over to Jennifer Wilson with KIPTA to talk about a little of the work being done in their region.
Can you hear me? Great. Hi, everybody. Good to see you here today. Again, I'm with KIPTA, the Kentuckiana Regional Planning and Development Agency. We're an area development district, as well as the Area Agency on Aging and Independent Living and a metropolitan planning organization for the counties that are highlighted here in in Kentucky and for some purposes in Indiana. So we cover Bullitt, Henry, Jefferson, Oldham, Shelby, Spencer, and Trimble in Kentucky, and then Clark, for some purposes, Clark and Floyd in Indiana. And there we go. Oh, okay. Here we go. Here's all of our Kentucky and Indiana counties. So our what we have done here is we got an EPA $1.5 million Brownfield Assessment Coalition grant in 2024, and the coalition partners were City of Shepherdsville and Shelby Main Street Foundation. However, we are thinking a little bit more broadly than this grant and have a program that is called Grounds for Growth, our site assessment and reuse planning program, because it's not only funded by our EPA Assessment Coalition grant, but also the resources we draw upon at the Kentucky Brownfield program at the state level with their targeted assistance to brownfield programs, the Cleaner Commonwealth Fund. We're looking to collaborate now with Louisville Metro's Brownfield program. We have gotten a lot of assistance from New Jersey Institute of Technology's TAB program and any and all other resources we can possibly find, as well as other leveraged funds for example, a Kentucky Heritage Council grant that was used to renovate a historic building that we had first done an infrastructure assessment and phase one on. So we're bringing that all together under our Grounds for Growth site assessment and reuse planning program. And in fact, I don't even use the word brownfield very much when I talk to people locally because they automatically think I'm talking about a Superfund site, which is actually not eligible for all of this type of funding. So I'm talking to people about abandoned properties, underutilized properties, vacant properties, and how we can assess them and plan for their reuse. So our progress to date is that so we're 2 years into our grant program, and I think some of the questions that come later will reveal to you why this is only as far as we've gotten, because the first year, there are a lot of tedious things to get through before you can get going with all of your assessments. But so as of the end of last month, we had completed 13 phase ones, 3 hazardous material surveys, 5 phase twos, and 4 site reuse plans and had expended a little over $400,000 of the $1.5 million grant. But things have really ramped up in after the first year. So we have 2 more years to run in our grant period. And that might have been my last slide. Tyler, no, I've got more. Oh, okay. So I obviously didn't remember where I had put all the information on these slides. So we bring into our program not only the EPA grant, but also Kentucky Brownfield's program and New Jersey of Institute Technology, both who have helped us with grant writing for additional grants and also with procurement and preparing RFPs.
All right, Jennifer, thank you for that. Oh, you also, I feel like you kind of queued up Sarah a little bit. You dangled the Easter egg of who was coming next with the partnership with Louisville Metro. So now I would like to invite Sarah from Louisville Metro government to speak on their Louisville Metro Brownfield program.
Yeah, so glad to be here. Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Ellis. I'm the Brownfields project manager with Louisville Metro Government. My position is housed in the Office of Planning. And we've been around for a while. Far before I came on the scene and far before I knew that this job existed, Louisville Metro has been doing brownfield work. We were a pilot community back in 1995, started out with an early assessment grant. From there, we went on to apply for and receive a cleanup revolving loan fund pilot grant again in the late 90s. And then our program really got kicked into high gear in 2007 when we were awarded a revolving loan fund that has been revolving since 2007. And just to make sure we're all on the same page, when I say revolving loan fund, it's an incredible tool that EPA has where they offer grants that municipalities and other eligible entities can apply for to receive a grant to make loans. And as those loans are repaid, that's what's considered the revolving portion. So as you revolve funding, it continues to go back in and you can make more loans. So it replenishes itself as the loans go through the process. and teed myself up for this one. We're similar to a bank. So a lot of what we do is we make loans. We make loans that can be riskier than what I think a traditional lender would often contemplate, and we provide a greater level of flexibility. And by that, I mean we offer lower than market rate interest rates. So our loans hover between 1% and 3% right now. We try to provide pretty flexible repayment terms based on the needs of the project, based on community benefit and several other factors. And we do a ton of education. Part of one of my challenges that I'm sure we'll get into later is getting folks ready to receive a loan. One of the biggest barriers is if you don't get a phase one environmental site assessment, you cannot qualify before you transact your property. You cannot qualify for our loans. So that's a big part of what we do is try to make sure folks understand how to be ready for the loan and how to do appropriate environmental due diligence before they acquire a property. And then Louisville Metro has a land bank, which is an incredible tool. They hold vacant property. They are able to send it through a disposition strategy. And land banks have a special authority that they can acquire contaminated properties without incurring liability. So that's a tool that we are still learning how to fully utilize, but we do a lot of work with the land bank, and we're actually working with KIPTA to try to get some of our land bank properties potentially assessed through the Grounds for Growth program so we can move them forward to productive use. And then I just wanted to give an example of one of the loans that we've done. This is a more recent loan. So the picture you see on the right-hand side of your screen, that's a former paint manufacturing warehouse. If anyone on here is local to Louisville, this is West Louisville. This is in the Portland neighborhood. There's a lot of old industry there. We did a $335,000 post-closeout program income loan. And to tell you what post-closeout program income is, it's an incredible tool where once you have revolved your loans, they're called program income. There's one more layer to that. If you close out an EPA grant and you still have funding, it's called a post-closeout program income bucket of funds. Why I'm telling you about this, post-closeout program income has the special ability to no longer require a lot of the federal pieces that can make these loans quite cumbersome. So post-closeout program income, you are not subject to Davis-Bacon prevailing wages. You are not subject to your National Environmental Protection Act. You are not subject to several of the federal requirements that can make our loans a bit intimidating, and quite frankly, it can make them more expensive. So that's one of the neat features of EPA's program is as you revolve your funding, you get this new opportunity to disperse loans in a different way that could lower some of the barriers to entry. But just to finish up on this project, it's turning a former paint manufacturing warehouse into 130 units of much needed housing. The scope of it was looking at some of the building materials, so abatement of asbestos, lead, and then there are several pieces of large equipment that contributed to the paint manufacturing that needed to be removed. This one also gave us an incredible opportunity to codify how we manage lead-based paint abatement. As we have learned, there is some room for interpretation, which is tricky when you're trying to administer a program. So we have codified our standards through this one.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. I love the idea of the trickiness and codifying your standards. You know, we're figuring it out sometimes as we go. I welcome anyone to place some questions into the Q&A. But if to kick us off, you know, before they start to roll in, I'm going to quit sharing my screen, and I want to also sort of call back to a conversation we were having before we got started. Um, and I want to start with Jennifer McIntosh, as she said that how this process doesn't feel like any other sort of federal process. And I'd like to just sort of invite you to elaborate a little bit on that, Jennifer, and how you feel like the process might differ. And then I welcome the rest of you to chime in as well.
I think for us, the way that it differs is your RFPs are a little bit stricter, and you do have to do like a full-blown RFP that includes the price. You can't just do a request for qualifications because EPA will not accept that. And then just the work in itself is different from what you would experience with a normal project administration of a normal grant, because you're working alongside a consultant to make sure that your phase ones, your phase twos are done, to figure out what kind of studies would best suit your area. And then, you're taking that into the communities. And once you've got the list narrowed down, because there are so many different studies that I think you can possibly do. It can be a little overwhelming when you're first looking at that. But then you have to kind of figure out what's best for your area and then take it in and ask your officials and public which ones they think would be better suited and which ones they'd like to see. So for me, I think that's what's a little different for it, as far as managing the Brownfields grants.
Yeah, a lot of options in the suite there, right? And figuring out what direction to take them can be challenging. It's very overwhelming. Jennifer, Sarah, do y'all have anything that you'd like to add to that?
I'll jump in real quick, and then I'm sure Jennifer will add more. To me, a lot of this, I do not have an environmental background, and it was learning a whole set of acronyms and language and processes that I had no idea existed. So part of the challenge was just understanding the landscape of what the EPA actually does when it comes to land development. And once you understand it, then figuring out how to apply it. And I feel like those are two completely different things that I am still working on, but that to me was big.
Jennifer,
Um,
I love seeing all the nodding heads. So we're just
yeah,
vigorous when
yeah.
you were talking. But
Yeah. Let's see. I think was the original question how this is different from other grant management, assuming that a lot of the people who are here with us today may be managing other types of non-EPA grants. And certainly as an ad, we're mostly handling non-EPA grants and we handle grants on behalf of other agencies. In this case, KIPTA got its own grant. So that's a whole new thing. We're not advising a city or county on how to conduct procurement, but conducting our own procurement process. So, there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of paperwork, and it's a little different from HUD or some of the other grants that we typically handle, although it's similar, but a little different. And and you can't really make assumptions on what you've done before for HUD or other funding agencies, you know. And yeah, so there are a lot of little differences, and I would say keep very lengthy checklists and tables and records of everything you do and everything that you need to do. If you've got the cooperative agreement yet, or as soon as you get it, read it really, really thoroughly with any exhibits because it will have a lot of obligations that maybe don't appear anywhere else in any other checklist that the EPA gives you that you have to comply with. So, and you'll get a lot of documentation that you have to comply with, hundreds, maybe thousands of pages of things that you're expected to comply with. And there's nowhere is it listed step by step. So you got to make your own step by step. And I'm happy to share whatever we've come up with here.
yeah, I appreciate you naming the specific document that you said was very helpful and creating the checklist off that and your desire to share because I think that that is a piece that's really daunting in these processes and getting new funding and then you get 1,000 pages and you're like, oh my gosh. And I think you mentioned in your presentation, I think you called it the first year tedium, um, which I just love as a phrase. But I'd like to keep it on you, Jennifer, for to start this question about like within that first year tedium and how difficult it is to get started. I'd just like to hear you elaborate a little more on that and like, the funding mentions, administrative and legal requirements and just sort of like in that first year, in that in between time, when you're waiting for money and then when you get the money before you get started, how do you go about tackling that and breaking it all down?
Yeah, so I don't want to go into too much detail because I think the EPA changes this maybe a little bit every year, and they might have made it easier. That would be great. But the EPA is going to demand an enormous amount of documentation from you, and some of it which you should already have in your organization, but it won't quite be what EPA wants. And they're going to read through it all, and they're going to ask you to insert paragraphs here and there. So if you have procured an environmental consultant, you're going to be in great shape because they're going to be able to help you do all of that. If you have not pre-procured an environmental consultant, you're going to have to make your way through it by yourself. And one thing is that I would try to figure out everything the EPA wants and give it to them all together. Read every single thing that they send to you and make sure you have it all. Don't just send them sort of something similar and hope that maybe they'll take it, because our reviewers were all very particular. If your procurement policy is supposed to contain a certain sentence, it has got to be in there. It can't be sort of similar. And so, what I would recommend for your organization is that whatever the EPA wants you to have in place, and I'm thinking specifically of a procurement policy, just adopt whatever the EPA wants for the purpose of this project. Just have your board adopt, a supplementary procurement policy for the purpose of your grant. Um, and be kind of flexible and allow, somebody to have the discretion to make decisions about it from time to time. So you don't have to keep going back to your board with every new thing that the EPA presents you with as needing to be signed or approved. Get some kind of flexible authority from your board early on. This might not make sense until you've seen what the EPA sends you, all the things they want you to fill out. But there's a lot of things to fill out, a lot of certifications, and a work plan. You have to devise a work plan, which to me just seemed like your application just sliced and diced a slightly different way, I think. I don't know, but we didn't have an environmental professional help us do it. So, and you can amend the work plan down the road, but it really is going to give you a roadmap for what you're going to do. And you can apply for some pre-approval costs. So I would be, think of anything and everything that pre-award costs is what I mean to say. And anything and everything you can think of, there's going to be a grantee conference. Go ahead and working on your inventory and your community engagement, whatever you can think of to do. I don't believe that these work plans are available publicly, but we could share ours. Or maybe in a redacted form, maybe if necessary. So yeah, think carefully about your work plan, but remember that you can amend most parts of it later on, but that'll and get it done pretty fast, because there's a large package of documents you submit to the EPA. I wasn't here when that happened. I was here, but I wasn't doing it. Somebody who is departed did that. So, and I know that it took months probably to get all of that together and to get everything approved and into the EPA. And then once all that's approved, then you can go forward with procurement. Also took several months to do. Then once you have an environmental professional, you can do a QAP, some kind of quality assurance plan. That took months because we had somebody new at the EPA. Yeah, so all of that, that's all the first year TDM. All that took a long time.
A lot of plans, right? A lot of
Yeah.
plans and pre-plans.
Yes. Oh, and a community
Yeah.
involvement plan also, which is something that you could maybe get a head start on, because you know your own community, so you know what's going to work there. This doesn't need to be kind of a generic. I mean, I think the EPA has a form that they like you to start with, but you can tailor it to your own community and what they need.
It's very helpful. Jennifer, Sarah, do y'all have anything to add to that? Particularly with like the monumental amount of plans that communities may be unfamiliar with, like developing a co-op or a community involvement or pre-procurement or any of that. And we'll get into procurement a little more deeply here in a minute. But yeah, just how you kind of went about sorting through some of these unfamiliar concepts in the first year TDM.
When we first started ours, we just kind of, we already had the base because of where we wrote the grant. So we kind of knew what we wanted to focus on. So when we sat down, because at that time I didn't have the consultant procured, so we had to kind of go through everything on our own. So we kind of looked at what they asked. We tried to be very open and responsive in how we answered those questions in order to get our work plan approved. And I would say make sure you read the instructions very well, first and foremost, because that is definitely going to help you as far as, if they ask you what you want to do, make sure that you're detailed in that. We worked very closely with our EPA project manager. So that would definitely be something that I would suggest is, as soon as you know who your project manager is, reach out, talk to them, and try to stay in close communication with them. We're very fortunate on both of these grants that we have two really great project managers at EPA. So they have worked extensively with us to make sure everything goes correctly and smoothly. And we even have monthly meetings with them just to make sure that we're on the same page. And so they've both been very open and responsive. So that would also be one of the biggest suggestions that I would give is if you are able to get one of these, just make sure that you work very closely with your EPA project manager.
Yeah, a huge resource, and they are there for a reason, right? To help you sort through this regulatory and pieces. Sarah, do you have anything you'd like to add, or do you think they nailed
Oh,
it?
oh, they nailed it. They completely nailed it. I just wanted to just in here just add on a teeny bit extra. Jennifer, I also meet with my EPA project officer monthly. We don't have to do it. I chose to do it. EPA wants to help. At least when I first started, I inherited a grant that was already in existence. We were developing a new work plan, and I did not use an environmental consultant because I didn't know that was an option at the time. I'm so glad that both Jennifer's talked about that's an option available to you. And the only piece I wanted to add is this work is incredibly technical. From my observation, EPA puts these out to communities that don't necessarily have the technical expertise. They expect you to pay for it. And that was something I really struggled with because I was like, hey, I have this budget. I should be getting all this money out the door. That was not helpful. That was not helpful because we are expected to pay a proper consultant who has the type of technical expertise that you need. And that's an expectation. So I just want to say, don't feel weird about paying someone to get help where it is appropriate and spelled out in your work plan or to write your work plan. And then you can spell it out. But just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and I'm curious on that point of like your consultant or in pre-procurement or regular procurement, whatever, like uh this sort of idea that you're kind of thrown in to the pool, but you don't know how to swim. How do you go about navigating? Like, how do you find your consultant and handle those processes when you're just like, I don't even know where to look? You know, where do you begin? Sarah, I'd like to go back to you since you raised that.
Yeah, so I have experience doing procurement, not for EPA work. This job, I've been here for about 2 years, so this job is the first exposure I've gotten to EPA work. When I did procurement, the main strategy I use is how good is your attention to detail? And I'm sure there are several strategies, and I just want to acknowledge that there are many different ways to do this, but at its very base level, when you're putting out procurement, you're saying, I'm looking for this. And you are scoring based on, did you give me this? And I'm looking at what you gave me and I'm saying, did you follow my directions? And to me, that indicates that we can have a relationship where we can work together. Because I think that's really part of it is you are going to rely on their expertise. Your consultant is going to know things that you do not know, and that's okay. But you need to feel like you can trust them and you need to feel like they can follow directions. And I feel like that's kind of a really simple thing. Good baseline. I would also say NJIT that Jennifer Wilson, I know you mentioned them earlier, they're incredible resources. We recently put out a procurement we're going after an assessment grant, so please cross your fingers for us. I leaned very heavily on NJIT to look at my procurement before it went out because they are experts in it, they're neutral, they gave me great feedback. So I think there's help out there. And I guess if I could say nothing else, there is help available. And I only say this from my own perspective of feeling like I could and should do everything by myself. You don't have to. You really like make things easier on yourself. Use the help, use the technical resources the EPA pays to help you.
Yes, I appreciate the mention of NJIT again. Great resource. They also have a ton of really good online resources for navigating these processes, but will, have a one-on-one conversation with you. So explore all their tools, please. Um, Jennifer, anything to add on that piece?
I was hoping that she would mention the NGIT. They are a phenomenal resource. When we first did our Brownfield Coalition procurement, I actually reached out to them and asked them if they could provide me with samples because I knew it was going to be a different type of procurement than what we typically see with some of our other grant programs. And they were fantastic in that they gave me about 4 examples from all over the country, and I was able to tailor ours, and then they reviewed it for me and told me what to fix. So they were a phenomenal resource, and I would highly recommend that, if you're considering this, you work with them as well, because they will help you.
I love the head nods, all the agreement. We've reached consensus. So, what, Sarah, you have mentioned something about like a scoring sheet, and the ways that you score folks when seeking procurement. Could any of y'all also see some head nods? Speak to like what that scoring sheet is. Is that something that's provided, something you develop yourself? And then just like, I don't know, like what is your strategy within that sheet and like going through the proposals and keeping an open mind with partner selection?
I can throw in a little, but I'd love to hear from both Jennifers about this. Um, so Jennifer McIntosh mentioned this is federal money. 25 points of your score need to be allocated to price. And typically that's something that you work with your office, or it might be called something different in your community, but we work with our Office of Management and Budget. So I am not scoring price, which takes a little bit of the pressure off of me and off of the team that we assemble to score. Our budget procurement folks score the price. We never even see it. In terms of the criteria, back to Jennifer McIntosh, I also asked NJIT what criteria I should use. Something I personally found helpful is I would like to know how much capacity the bidders have. If they are extremely busy and their capacity is, we'll call it 10%, and you're going to get 10% of their time for a project that you feel like you need more, that might be good information for you to have. How busy are you? How much of you am I going to see? But NGIT was great. They also helped with sort of, technical approach, quality of the work plan. Those are some of the criteria they had suggested. And I believe they also gave me some sample proposals from other communities that I was able to look at to see, oh, gee, I would love to ask for that in our community.
Anything to add about developing that strategy for procurement?
I'd just like to ask NJIT tab for the criteria. And you'd mentioned the scoring sheet. That's going to be dictated by whatever criteria you've already got in your RFP. So you might want to think about them at the same time. Like how is the criteria that you talk about in your RFP, how's that going to be broken down for an individual reviewer on that scoring sheet in a really user-friendly way? And yeah, I just wanted to say, do those at the same time. And then we had an independent review committee then who would, some of whom were familiar with brownfields, and then some of them who weren't. And we were fortunate in the ad to have a department that deals not with brownfields but with procurement specifically. And so they gave us that expertise as well.
It's great. And I know that I'm forgetting the official name of it, but I know that the state Kentucky Brownfield program does keep a list of those officials or those entities in the state of Kentucky who kind of commonly do this work. So, you can feel free to reach out to them as well, and they will, happily provide you with that list to begin making contacts. Um, so I'm thinking about first year TDM is out of the way, maybe. You've closed the gap on getting everything ready. You've been allocated your money finally. What are the next steps after the money is allocated? Procurement is maybe finished. How do you then begin to proceed forward through the process of your assessments or your cleanups or whatever? Jennifer McIntosh, I'd love to start with you on this.
So the first thing I will say is an assessment grant is very much different from a cleanup grant. So I've had to learn the nuances between the two because this was actually my very first cleanup grant that I've worked on. So that one is very different from our assessment. So with our assessment grant, what I did is I just got with the consultant who has done this for years and years and years. And we kind of made out a game plan of what we wanted to do, how we wanted to go forward. And then they went out and they actually did our inventory list for us. So that way we would know what buildings, and they've worked hand in hand with us and our communities to find those buildings and get that list. So that way then we know. We also let all of our communities know that we had this Brownfield grant, which has helped us too with our inventory because especially in our area where we suffered severe flooding. We're processing, we're in the process of trying to find areas for housing. So, we're looking at sites that may be brownfield sites that can be renovated in the future. So that's also helped us with trying to get these phase ones, phase twos done because they're trying to move as quickly as possible so that we can get the housing built. The cleanup is a little different in the fact that you have your consultant, but you might also have various contractors working under there. So you have to figure out the process of how to go about that. So I've learned a lot on both ends, just working with both of these.
Jennifer Wilson, do you have anything you perspective on how that unfolds for y'all?
Yeah, so I think we're at the point where the procurement has been made, right? And then so we assembled a regional brownfield committee, a regional grounds for growth committee. So with people from all of our counties and some of the major cities, and had a big kickoff luncheon where we talked about what we're looking for, what we can do, with some examples of what this can do for communities, and tried to get a lot of people involved so that we could get them to suggest sites for us and build up that inventory as quickly as we could, and identify pretty quickly some sites that clearly met everybody's criteria for priority sites that we wanted to go ahead and start assessing. So that was our next big effort.
Sarah, anything you'd like to add?
Oh, sure. So we're revolving loan funds a little bit of a different flavor, if you will. Since we're making loans, those come with a lot of pieces of paperwork that are essentially compliance. And the first thing that we did and that we needed to do is get compliant loan templates. So as we make a loan, we have to have the borrower sign a legally binding agreement with us that ensures that we get paid back. And that template also lays out all of the federal requirements that flow down from the EPA. So through the grant, I was able to pay an environmental attorney. I'm happy to share our loan templates with anyone who would like to see them. We paid for three. We have a template for a regular grant, if you will. We have a template for we do partially forgivable loans. Then we have a template for that post closeout program income that I discussed with you earlier, because each have slightly different requirements. So money well spent. My hope is that we can use these templates for a long time, but as federal requirements change, we do need to update them. So that was one large piece of the work. And then I mentioned this earlier, but a lot of what our work looks like now that, we have the grant, the consultant has been appropriately procured, is marketing, 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 and trying to find good candidates for our loans. And by good candidates, I mean they've conducted their phase one before they transacted the property, or they've not transacted yet, but they are very close and they're doing a phase one and they know what a phase one is, that the loan applicant has experience managing a project that is quite complicated. And we don't necessarily require that you need to have brownfield experience under your belt to take one of our loans. You do need to demonstrate that you can manage a large project that has different moving pieces. You can manage a budget, you can manage contractors, things of that nature. So a lot of our work has been working with my environmental consultant to put structure in place to help facilitate all of that, because we were a little loosey-goosey for a bit. So right now it's been sort of codifying and documenting and much more documenting, and we're getting to a better place. So I'm happy to share anything that we've worked on if that is ever helpful to folks on this call.
Yeah, and I encourage y'all to take Sarah up on this, or take anyone up on their offer to share those documents. But particularly, I feel like I'm going to stay on RLF, the revolving loan funds, for a minute here. That I feel like they're kind of like a secret weapon of this program that we don't really see implemented or deployed as much. And I think, in that thought that you are like a bank, you're lending money. And you kind of alluded to this, that there are kind of different sort of reporting and regulatory pieces that you might have to consider. And I'm just wondering if you could speak to, if a community were to pursue a revolving loan fund, what both the short and the long-term considerations and documentation might be.
Yeah, definitely. I think a pretty big piece, and this is something that Metro already had baked in, is either staff or you hire a consultant who is familiar with underwriting. and someone who is familiar with underwriting a riskier project, if you will. And the only reason I mention that is from what little I know about underwriting, there are different levels of risk tolerance. Brownfields are inherently risky. That's why I have a job. That's why this program exists, because we needed a mechanism to infuse cash into these properties that are underutilized. And it is inherently risky that you are investing in a cleanup of a property where maybe you're digging and you find something you didn't expect there, and all of a sudden they need more money to help continue the project. There are several unknowns that you need the right level of expertise when you are considering, can this person manage this project? Can we underwrite this loan in a way that we think will be paid back is incredibly helpful. Louisville Metro government has a lending arm. That's something that we've been doing as an organization for a long time. I've spoken to other communities who they outsource underwriting, and that is an option that you have available as a grantee. But when approaching it, you need to understand you're going to become a bank. And if you don't have the pieces in place to do lending, if that's not something that the staff have experience with, either you need to be comfortable managing someone who is going to do that, or you need to find them, because that's just, you can't do it without that. The underwriting has to be tight.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I hope that it doesn't dissuade communities from potentially pursuing revolving loan funds. Also want to do a shout out to the state. In the Brownfield program, they also offer a statewide revolving loan fund. I believe it's 15 years, 0% interest, 25% forgivable. So contact our friends at the state. Kirsten O'Leary would love to hear from you. Um, I want to shift back a little bit into the conversation that I heard y'all kind of mentioning a little bit about like your site inventories and things like that, and sort of that idea that you can develop it, you know, with your assessment funding and something that we always in the engagement work, we try to preach that idea of getting the site inventory early, giving yourself a good sort of idea of where you're headed. And I'm curious, like once you get into the process, how much does like the early site inventory come into play? How much do you deviate it? So sort of that like pre-grant during the grant. How do you kind of balance that and adding more sites and deviating? Jennifer McIntosh, I see your head nodding, so let's start with you.
So what we did originally was, we compiled our site inventory. Um, we've stayed with it somewhat, but we have actually, in our case, we deviated a lot, especially in Perry County. They asked early on, they actually called and said, "Hey, we know you have this. Do you mind including us because we're trying to do the housing?" So we actually deviated to be able to include their places that they wanted. Because like one is an old water park, so we knew that there was more chance that there was going to be something there, especially because of all the chemicals that used to be there. The other one was a closed school. So, we knew in their instances that, yeah, they probably did need these in order to be able to go forward and turn these into something that is useful to the community rather than just buildings sitting there decaying down. So I think it's okay if you need to deviate, because you're trying to do what's best for your community. So don't be focused on this is my set list and I have to get this set list done, because you will find that sometimes when people learn that you have this, there's greater needs that's going to do greater work for your entire region. So that would be my suggestion when you're doing these site inventories.
So a good base to work off of, but once again, as with any community work, being responsive to the needs and what arises throughout the process. Yeah. Anything that y'all would like to add, Jennifer or Sarah?
I could just toss
Okay.
in the revolving loan fund first. I'll be quick. For revolving loan fund, we have an opportunity every year to apply for supplemental funding, which is a delightful. When you apply for supplemental funding, we aren't asked for a site inventory, but we are asked for a pipeline, which is very similar. It's like the cousin of the site inventory. And by pipeline, I mean it's a list of projects that said, yes, we are interested in pursuing your loan. Here is the amount that they would take, some brief information on the timeline. Our pipeline Similar to what Jennifer said, we have a pipeline and then we have reality. The pipeline sometimes comes through to reality, but EPA is incredibly understanding that development is complex, that projects take a long time, and that things will shift. And I think their interest is that you are spending money in accordance with your cooperative agreement and that you are assessing and cleaning up properties. And some of the little details they don't get hung up on, which is makes them a delightful partner to work with.
I'll just chip in and say that our inventory is really a wish list region-wide. And a lot of the sites are not going to turn out to be suitable for assessment or reuse planning. And often because it happens that the owner is out distant and is not here and is not interested, or the owner is very elderly and is hoping to hold on to that property for their heirs. And then the heirs may, and then sometimes that owner does pass away, and the heirs may or may not be interested in doing anything with the property. I've been surprised by how often there is, a decaying property in the middle of a charming main street, and nobody's willing to do anything with it. And no, so the inventory is a wish list of all kinds of brownfields that we would love to do something with. But the ones that the owner will actually give permission for site access or is actually interested in having assessments or potential reuse planning is a much smaller. It's a much smaller list, but you never know what can happen because people can change their minds about a property at any time. So we keep our wish list alive. And but it is something to think about, because everything we do is subject to an open records request. And when we have a brownfields inventory that's kind of a wish list, there may be people who don't want their building on our wish list, and so we do have to think about that. And sometimes, refer to sites in a somewhat cryptic way, so that no one would find out, oh, you've got my building that's on Main Street in such and such town on your list of brownfield. It's not a brownfield. This is a perfectly good building. So it's something to be sensitive about with all your records. They're all open to the public, everything we do. So something to be sensitive about.
I think that's a really good piece of advice and consideration to have, and particularly working in the hyperlocal and having relationships and dynamics that will last beyond these projects. I would like to stay on you, Jennifer, and I know we're nearing the end, but I want to try to squeeze in a couple more questions of one about sort of the idea with property owners, and I'm curious about like when y'all are moving towards like site access for environmental site assessments. Um, what have you ever encountered a thing that's just like a hard no on site access? What do you do when approaching site access? And do you have like effective tools to reassure property owners about the process?
We have gotten no's. And our best tool is somebody who lives there, usually the county judge or the mayor would be, or other officials that we know, commissioners and magistrates who we know. Those are the very best way. And even, it's very hard to explain maybe to somebody, you've got a brownfield here and we want to assess it, and they're very worried thinking that I'm going to be liable if you find something there that is a hazardous contaminant. I'm going to now be liable, and everybody's going to know about it. And so people can be, understandably cautious about it. So I think developing a quick elevator speech about what this is and how it can benefit the owner and the community is really important. And getting that to the officials that you know in the area, and maybe the schools, maybe other anybody there who knows a lot of people in the area, so that they can get a personal appeal is the best way to do it.
Anything y'all would like to add on communicating with property owners or even Sarah, I know you're kind of in a space of working with them when the property's already acquired and the projects are in motion, but you did mention earlier, folks coming to you and talking about, you know,
I got a good story for y'all. It's a fresh story too. So one of the pieces that Louisville Metro offers is general advice and guidance to prospective property owners. A lot of it is just begging them to get a phase one before they transact. I was working with a nonprofit who is considering acquiring an old church. I believe they know there's asbestos, they know there's lead-based paint, but he needs the phase one to first be eligible for our loans, and second, because it's a good idea to make sure that you have an understanding of the environmental conditions around your property. He was dealing with a broker and he tried to explain to the broker, and they're going to get their assessment through the state, but they need a site access form signed. And the broker was saying, we're not going to sign it. This isn't a brownfield. Everything's fine. What we were able to do was convince the broker to meet with Kirsten O'Leary from the state, who is a fabulous resource, because what I think happened, they heard the term brownfield, just like Jennifer said, and they got scared and they thought, someone's going to sue us for something. So we were able to bring the broker, the potential loan applicant, and I just came to facilitate, or I was just there to press the button. We talked through the issues. The state talked through potential liability of the seller, which was very limited in this case, and they signed the access agreement. But it did take a little bit of shepherding folks to the right people, and I'll just plug the state as an incredible resource if people are worried. They're so good at what they do.
Yeah, I appreciate that also the sort of like the persistence and the strategic like okay no like let's reframe the conversation and maybe this person might be a better way to articulate it in a resource to have. And I think Jennifer was kind of alluding to that too a little bit with the relationship building at the hyperlocal. Um, we are about at time, but I do want to give just a little bit of space, if y'all can, to offer up any sort of final thoughts or advice about as folks begin to move forward in this process. Maybe they're in that sort of the administrative purgatory, the limbo, before they get their money, and then even moving beyond that into procurement and working with that consultant. Like any advice you can offer in that process to close. I'll open the floor to you three.
I would just say make sure that you do follow your agreement. Make sure that you're reading it. Make sure you're staying in line with everything that's in it. Make sure you're following your work plan. If you need to change your work plan, make sure you reach out to EPA and get their approval if you do need to change it. As far as, just make sure you're working with your consultant that you've hired to help you through this process because they've got years of experience doing this. So, make sure you're working with them as well. It's really a joint endeavor when working on a brownfield. There's a lot of moving parts, but there's a lot of people that can help you make sure you get things correctly. So that would be my piece of it.
Thank you. Yes. Everyone wants to see you succeed. Jennifer.
I'll jump in there. I would say keep really detailed records of everything you do in all of your paperwork and all of your files, because we have seen a little turnover within our agency, and I took over some functions somebody else did, and it happens at the EPA, it might happen at your consultant, and as Jennifer said, there's many moving parts. I probably have thousands of documents in my file for this one grant alone, and I don't know, I think. At one point, I had over 700 emails, and I think it's probably maybe double that now. So many moving parts, and you're going to have this long inventory, and so you're going to have a good system of communication with your consultant about all of the new sites you get or where you are with each site. And one thing that you need to like, if you decide not to go forward with the site, why? Because you don't want to go back to somebody and say, can we inventory your site? And they say, no, we told you last year you can't. You want to have very good records of all the communications that happened around everything. So lots and lots of record keeping.
And that
I'll just
relationship with your consultant, as you alluded to, huge and very helpful in helping you navigate the process. Sarah, I cut you off. I'm so sorry.
No, you did not. I'm so sorry. My little plug is reach out to other grantees that are doing similar things. I have coffee chats with other grantees all the time. I've got like a Rolodex of people I call when I have problems in other communities because I know they have more experience than I do. That's it.
Yes, I love it. And that idea again, everyone wants to see each other succeed, a rising tide. lifts all ships. I want to thank the three of you so much for taking the time today and the time that you spent before this, getting everything together and preparing to share in this way. I'm incredibly excited to see what continues to happen in all of your communities. I know, there have been really great projects in Louisville that have come from the revolving loan fund, and they're still continuing to develop. Jennifer alluded to so many in her region, Jennifer McIntosh, um, that have come to fruition. Like Hazard that are in fruition, like Beattyville and others, and Jennifer in the KIPTA region that I am so enamored by, particularly in towns like Newcastle, as we've discussed. And seeing the work that can happen in these rural spaces, and in the historic farmland out there, very exciting. So thank you all. Anyone who has any questions for our panelists, I'm sure they would be happy to answer those after the fact if anything comes up. And they also mentioned a lot of resources that they'd be happy to share. So I'm happy to facilitate that if you'd like. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Always happy to talk, always happy to come visit, help you sort of develop some of those preliminary pieces. Thanks again for spending your time with us. Thanks again to our panelists. You all have a great day.